Welcome, Bill O'Reilly. I want to start with this. You've done an updated message of the day, which is 10 ways the impeachment process is hurting every single American. Let's start there.
All right, it's the United States of Trump, Beck. I know it's a complicated thing.
It is.
Just
I didn't read it. I haven't seen it.
You read it and confer with Pat, and Pat will tell you. You see, I want your listeners to know before we get into the heavy duty stuff. If I were advertising on Beck, the United States of Trump, paying him money,
I still wouldn't
he would know the title, and he could tell you the title backward.
Nope.
Okay? Nope. He'd be sitting in the
You're the one that still wrote the book? Wait, you're the one who still wrote the book?
I wrote the United States of Trump.
Right. But I mean, in this scenario where I'm doing advertising, you're paying me to do it, you are the author of the book.
Yes, and I am telling everyone that you would not boot
not enough
the title
money
of the book.
Nope.
If you were being paid.
You are wrong, Mr. O'Reilly. But let's get to the 10 things on how the impeachment is actually hurting the average American.
Yes. There's nothing good about this, number one. And if you see other people celebrating impeachment, you need to just pull them aside and say, do you understand that we all are in this together in this country, that we have to have a functioning federal government trying to solve vexing problems, that we must have a robust economy to support 330 million people, most of whom want to improve themselves? Do you understand that destroying the office of the presidency, not just the president, but the office of it, is counterproductive to freedom? Do you understand any of that? And you'll get silence, because this isn't the way impeachment is being presented. This is awful.
You know, I said earlier this week, Bill, that this impeachment, all of the so-called evidence that they're presenting on TV is not evidence. And this is really reminiscent of the glove in O.J. Simpson's case. African Americans wanted O.J. Simpson to be innocent, so it would be a win for them because of history of, blacks getting crushed by the system. They wanted this guy to beat the system. And so the glove it didn't have really anything to do with the evidence. They had blood stains and drops in his car. They had DNA evidence, everything else. But the glove gave them permission to say, yep, he's innocent. And the same thing.
The jury thought that.
Right. But the same thing is happening here with this. This phone call is giving permission to people who want Donald Trump to be out. It's giving them an easy way of, even though it's not based on any fact, of, yep, we win, he's out.
Sure. And that's what it's all about, the destruction of Donald Trump. And whether it's Russian collusion or impeachment or whatever they'll come up with next, abuse of power, it is a game now. It's a game, all right? So someone's going to have an actual board game like Monopoly, and then you roll the dice, and then you'll stop on a square, and the square will say, Trump did this. Okay, it's ridiculous. Now, I'm not in the business of defending Donald Trump, even though I wrote a book on him, a fair book. It's not a pro-Trump book. But I'm in the business.
By the way, if you're looking for a great book to read, Bill wrote that book called The Country According to the President.
Yes. Okay. The Little Red Book by Mao Zedong. There you go.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm in the business of trying to improve America, and I've always been in that business, and that's why I'm successful. So whether it's books or commentary or radio, whatever it may be, and I'm seeing this as, number one, a division in the country now based on hatred of one individual. Now, there is a system attached to the individual. I understand that. But when you got a guy like Adam Schiff, by the way, I am counting my trick-or-treats. I went as Adam Schiff last night, and it was not easy getting a shirt 3 sizes too big. Not easy.
Right. I
did it.
Yeah, good for you.
I scared every urchin. Urchins were screaming. Blood.
That is crazy.
Screams.
So
Yeah.
did you see the news that we think we know who the whistleblower is now?
I know. I reported last night. We know.
Yeah.
It's a 33-year-old Yale guy who's a hate Trump guy who worked in the deep state and still is in Langley, Virginia, who was associated with Biden and with other people and has 2 best friends working for Adam Schiff. And so it's a total con.
It's a total con.
I haven't heard anything about him for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And it's interesting. What's interesting, Bill, is he is connected with Chalupa, who's a main figure on our chalkboard. And we did the chalkboard about a month ago. I think it was 5 days later is when they said, don't worry about that. We've got another whistleblower. And as we find out now,
15 whistleblowers, right?
Yeah, this guy is connected directly to the storyline of our chalkboard. He is evidence that it's true.
If this were a criminal case, it would have been thrown out.
Yeah, easy.
It would have been thrown out. Everything's gone because the original complainant is a fraud. So it's gone.
What does it say to you that yesterday not a single Republican voted for this?
Big time for a win for Trump. And the reason is that there are senators like Romney and Murkowski who hate Trump, hate him, and would vote to remove. Now they can't, because if they do, they'll be blackballed by their own party. And
that thing would make me happier.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, politics is politics, but I was surprised. I thought there would be a couple of Republican congressmen to vote for the inquiry. Remember, this was a vote to continue the inquiry, to continue compiling evidence of a possible misdemeanor and high crime.
Not one person, not one witness is said that it is a crime. Not one.
No, so that has emboldened Donald Trump. So let me give you some inside info, because I know him pretty well. I have very good sources. So there was a big meeting after the vote in the White House. And I shouldn't say big, because there aren't a lot of advisors in there anymore. Because we trust Mulvaney. Mulvaney is going to be gone in a matter of very short time. Mulvaney's out. So there's a meeting about 5 or 6 people he trusts, and they basically sat around and they said, "Look, now let's let this go forward, because we have Nunes, and this is a big key that every American should know. Nunes is stronger than Schiff. So Nunes is the minority guy on the House Intel Committee, all right? Devin Nunes from California. He's stronger than Schiff. So it's him and Schiff that will direct the questioning, Nunes and Schiff. And then in the summaries and the leaking to the press, it's Nunes and Schiff. Nunes will be on Fox News every second of every day. All right? And so they believe that Nunes is going to kick Schiff's butt all over the place. And this is going to directly lead to the reelection of Donald Trump. So they're happy. This is the first time that the president's been relieved. I mean, last time we talked last week, I said I was worried about him personally, because it was taking some emotional toll on him. Now he's almost buoyant in the sense that he believes this whole thing has turned after yesterday's vote.
I would agree. I think this week was a turning point in this, and I think it's going to get worse and worse for the Democrats, with one exception. What do you think is going to happen with John Bolton? Because
very interesting.
Yeah, they keep holding him out like, oh, he's going to be the death knell for Donald Trump.
I don't know the ambassador that well. I never used him on the O'Reilly factor, not once. And the reason I didn't use him, very smart guy,
very smart, was
because I knew what he was going to say. I knew it. I mean, there was never a surprise, never a nuance. He was not a guy who was parroting a lot of other people. A hard right view
Yes.
of foreign policy.
Correct.
All right, and I didn't use any hard left people either. I never did. So here's the dilemma for John Bolton. Bolton, you can't assume that he has any regard for Donald Trump. We can't assume that. I mean, he doesn't like him because it didn't end well in the White House for him. But if he goes in and crushes Trump, and he could, he's dangerous in the sense that he knows a lot of things. He will alienate himself from his entire ideological structure. He will be a pariah in this country.
I think he's on that road already,
but he knows that. There's not going to be anywhere for him to speaking engagements, no book audience for him, no comeback on Fox News, none of that. So he cuts himself off. Now, the Trump administration has anticipated the worst. They don't know. Nobody knows what Bolton's going to say. So the counter to Bolton is Pompeo. And you saw that this week as well. Pompeo came out and said, look, I was on the call, and we didn't deviate out from what our policy for the Trump administration is. So they'll put Pompeo up against Bolton. And Pompeo's strong. Remember, ex-CIA chief, all right? He's strong. But
so
there's some danger there.
Does this boil down, Bill, really to an extreme disagreement in the policy of the State Department, and the State Department just saying, we don't work for Donald Trump, even though they do. We don't work for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's not going to get involved, and the State Department engaging in some really nasty stuff over in the Ukraine?
Well, the State Department now is very simpatico with President Trump. I mean, because Pompeo is the Secretary of State. They're buds.
I mean those long-term players, for instance,
but
the
they don't
whistleblower.
have any access other than leaking whatever. There are two people that Donald Trump deals with every day: Vice President Pence and Pompeo. Those are the only two, and they're both very loyal to him. And as long as they stay there, as long as he has them, he can use them to go out and negate a Bolton. Now, as for your question about the State Department and the Justice Department and everybody else, they all hate Trump. They've hated him from day one. All right? And that's why you saw the whistleblower.
Yes.
This guy was working to undermine Trump from the very beginning.
Oh, he's the guy who said that Putin and Trump... Putin told Donald Trump to fire Comey. He's the guy who started all of that.
This guy is an activist.
Yeah.
He's an activist.
Very bad, very bad.
But Schiff is in trouble because he went to Schiff because his two best friends work for Schiff. I mean, it's really bad.